Alessandro Carroza, a friend from Sydney. He moves to the Sunshine Coast now, so we all back together here, brother. And the thing is, because I wanted to record this, was next weekend you're going to be doing a ceremony for Ayahuasca.
Yes.
So
quite excited to the idea.
Yeah.
Different, something that obviously you had to feel it within yourself when you're ready. I've been doing so many researches. There are so many studies about it. And I think when you're spiritually ready to do some things, and it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. And why you decided to actually do it? Because, you said that is when you're getting ready, but
yes.
What was the thing that triggered for you to wanting to do it?
Look, it all started a couple of years ago when I suddenly realized that in life there were certain priorities for me, and those priorities were to actually pushing on my spiritual level. So then something helped as well, some situation, a family situation that actually got me to the point where I was like, okay, what is really important in life?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so I suddenly start to study about the human mind, how on a spiritual level. I suddenly start to read a lot about the spiritual teachers. They were teaching you how to actually facing like life issues. No, let's say challenges more
mm-hmm.
than issues. So after a couple of years, like I've been doing researches, I've been like having, let's say, a trip inside my spirituality. And I was like, okay, I try Kambo, which is another medicine from the Amazon tribes. They've been doing in Peru for thousands and thousands of years. After I try Kambo, which is a kind of venom from a frog in the Amazon. So basically they apply this kind of medicine on your skin. What it does to your body, it completely clean your panema. They call it panema. Panema is a kind of energy field that builds around you as a result of like experiences past. It's a kind of energy field that gets cleaned completely from your body. And
the energy collects things throughout your either life or
everything that can go from work to life situations, relationship, any sort of mental blockages that can completely be gone thanks to this medicine. And after I actually tried that, I suddenly realized, whoa, there is something magic actually in these ancient medicines that people, as I say, in the South American and as well, my friend Gaston here were mentioning to me when I was talking to him about it. He knew already a lot about it, and he actually put me in contact with this friend, which is a common friend now, Matt.
Which actually he's Italian.
He's Italian, Matt, and we say hi to him. He's in New York at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Matt is following his dreams, and he just went to New York last year. Yeah, and. Yeah, I met him once only through
work.
Work, and then it's kind of people who you have a connection,
absolutely.
And I still consider him a friend after that day.
Absolutely.
Even it was such a short period that we actually had time to talk and everything. But
he's absolutely an awake soul, and we spend me and Matt time over a video call talking about ayahuasca because he also did this ceremony. And we talk a lot, and after my own researches and what people have been telling me, I really want to try to see. I'm a bit excited to the ideas. I'll be scared, to be honest, because obviously when you do those kind of ceremonies, your ego completely dissipates. It completely eliminates from your life for the entire... Temporary, for the entire period of the ceremony. This obviously helps your inner self to discover what is the real priority in life, which through meditation as well, through self-inquiries as well, you can already do it. But this kind of ceremony only does, what it does is just kind of accelerate, and it will help you discover in full your own, what we on earth for, what we are alive for. And it's something that, because I've been always a scientific person, and I always had a scientific view of things. And this one is a kind of challenge to my own previous view of things.
When you say previous, because you say you have an event, like a personal event, would you want to share what it was? Or,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then I want to, what I would like to know also is, what was Alex before that event? How was your way of thinking? But yeah, you tell probably the event
Absolutely,
first.
absolutely. I'm glad to share actually, because it can be useful for people who don't actually have experienced something like that. It can be a trauma when you were little, or a part of your family that gets suddenly sick, which is my case. My sister, a few years ago, unfortunately, she discovered that she had she discovered she was very sick. And that kind of event actually shaken me in a way that I was like, okay, so my goal in life were certain type of goals. And after the situation, I was like, okay, now I really need to discover what is important in life, because we are alive, and we should be grateful every single moment we are alive. And that's why I've been reading Eckhart Tolle, which is my, let's say, mentor. It's like my father, my daddy, that I never had. Eckhart Tolle is like a one of the spiritual teachers that can change someone's life, because he talks about how the mind works, how the mind controls our life, and how actually you can actually use your mind to actually grow, not let the mind controls you. And it's something that, as I said, when a life situation like that, tough life situation happen, there is a sudden shifting within you. So you're just starting to think about more on a spiritual level. And I think at the end of this journey is there is no end for this journey, but Sunday will be a step
into
forward.
the unknown, and then
Yes.
back to reality on Monday. And
Yes.
and this is why I was wanting to do this, because I mean, not always, but start getting interested in that. I'm pretty much the same. Although I like to go and do things, but I still have this mind that it lets me probably think first and see other people's experiences, and wanted to know, because I see that it can be good, but at the same time it's very important not to become like any addiction,
Absolutely.
to something that you had to come back, and the only way to come back is just to repeat it the same. And I'm seeing it in other people, and it's probably how the part of the life that they had to solve.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's always interesting to find things that before we never thought it was possible because of the blockages from religion.
Yes.
We pretty much grew up in a not religious families, but like it's the Christianity. We block all the stuff. You don't talk about anything that has to do with that little bit of esotericism, so it's good to find what's going to happen now. I'm excited to know Monday, and we're going to do a second interview. But the thing is, you were saying the Eckhart Tolle is one of you, and is anybody recommended that book to you, or you come across?
Actually, Eckhart Tolle is a kind of actually another life event, because Eckhart Tolle, I was doing a lot of researches about what is, so basically a lot of people believe that when they think about something, that projection of thinking is actually the person that they really are, when it's not actually true, because the real actually human being is actually a still a still entity within this world with a conscious. Conscious is something, for a scientific person like me, it was a very hard work for me to actually come to the realization that consciousness is the most beautiful, profound, amazing thing that we don't know what is consciousness. Like, because we are alive, but we are also conscious. The fact that we are conscious, there are so many studies, but no one exactly know when did everything start, when did our consciousness start. And Eckhart Tolle, it's a kind of spiritual teacher that is a very, he does on a simplistic way. Is a very simple, he gives you very simple messages, very simple teaching. And he also, one of the things that I love about him is that his way of teaching is not like I'm teaching you something, but he actually, what he does is I let you see things within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I show you where you have to see it, and then you will discover yourself.
Oh, good.
So it's actually really means it doesn't step because a lot of spiritual teachers say you need to achieve this.
Yeah, which is
we doing this. What it does is what you're actually looking for is already present in you at this very moment, and with meditation as well. Because after I read his books actually, I read 2 books about him, of him. I started meditation, transcendental meditation, which is a kind of another practice that lets you discover your inner self as well. Let you live in a more grounded way, especially for someone like me. I'm a restaurant manager, so I deal every day with stressful situation. Let you be grounded and be in control of the whole business within a whole, with your team.
No getting caught up in the reactionary mode.
Yes.
Is kind of like more like responding to every situation in a way that you kind of like center of what you need to do, and then not letting your sort of like senses in a way
Absolutely. It's so
distract you from what you want to achieve, because I think
absolutely. And I would recommend you guys, whoever is watching, to have a think as well what is really important within your life. If you think that we are living in this society based on capitalism, where everything is based on profits, based on human materialistic achievements, based on being very comforted by someone else, rather than actually looking inside us. I would recommend every single viewer to ever think about that and maybe start a spiritual journey.
Yeah. For how I see it, which we all, like you say at the beginning, we all learning, and we will be until we die, no?
Until we die.
So it's progress that we
never
every day we do something. So we might change our way of thinking in a year from now, but for me, it got to a point where all the things that I wanted, like personally for me, you need to kind of like put it on a circle. It's like imagine a pizza. It has, I don't know, maybe 6-7 portions, probably 6, just to make it even. And you have, career, spirituality, the wheel of life, they call it.
Absolutely.
And then see, I don't know if you can do it once a week or once a month. If you can do it every day, even better. And see where your time is going, because sometimes we tend to go and focus just on career.
Yes.
And then we forget the other things. And at the end of the day, I don't have the answer yet, but from my experiences, that whatever we do or we put our energy too much of the time, eventually it gets to a point where the other things, you need to go back and work on them. So ideally for me would be now, because I'm a person who likes to go and do one thing and go for it, but now I'm trying to be balanced, relationships, family,
yes, absolutely,
career, health, spirituality and stuff, and trying to make the circle grow, but like in an even way, and not just going full on in one, and then realizing that I'm doing it too much. I get tired. I'm sick or whatever, and then you had to go back to the health part and then work on your health, and then because you had to focus on your health, you can't focus on your career, and so on, no? And so you just doing things, reacting to how you feel at the moment. So yeah,
absolutely,
keeping a balance.
I agree so much. There is a famous saying, I'm not sure who said that, but I think it's Dalai Lama, that he said that sometimes humans tend to focus too much on, for example, achievements, and then they lose health within those achievements, and then they need to, as you said,
had to move to health
back to fix the balance is everything in life. So,
and the thing is, like always, luckily I never had some situation that I'm feeling like, okay, this is the end, or it's kind of like you had to step up or go down to the bottom. But I'm always, because I'm sort of like a kind of health conscious person, I'm always trying to keep my health a priority in a way, because it gives me energy to do the other things. But the moment that I fall sick or for whatever reason I end up in bed, and even if it's one day, I realize that it doesn't matter how much your career, your money, and every single thing you have, how can make you feel like it doesn't matter, because what you want the most is being healthy again.
Absolutely.
Or I want to be healthy, and I don't care if I have a nice car sitting outside the house, because at the end of the day, if you had to go today, that stuff, it doesn't matter. It is important, but it's not everything. So this kind of going slowly, trying to build wealth, just being wealth in general, like or spirituality, health, money, and so on. No?
Absolutely.
But so the thing is now is Sunday. So how are you preparing for it? For the...
Well, to be honest, I have a program that I need to follow in terms of eating.
Mm-hmm.
Today I had probably my last coffee with my friend Augustin. For another week I cannot have any coffee.
Yep.
And it's part of the process within preparing your body for this. And also I need to follow a very strict diet.
What type of diet is?
It's a kind of it's a diet based on vegetables, obviously.
Yep.
A lot of waters, a lot of not like carbonated drinks, which should be the normality for all of us. But it's just to prepare the body because the ritual as well. It's one of the part of the ceremony is actually it's called the purge, where you can actually you're gonna actually purge, like you're gonna completely detox your body. And so
you the idea with the preparing for that diet is to basically prepare your body to have less toxins, so you don't suffer as much the day of the actually purge.
Yes, exactly. Same as for example the Kambo, which is this frog medicine that I tried. It was so powerful for me, and it's a kind of the reaction of this kind of medicine is actually very strong. But at the same time, after the detox, technical speaking, you can literally see from the puke, from your vomit, biles, like you can see toxins coming out from your body. The Amazon tribes, they call it Panema. The dark energy that it was obviously built up from previous experiences of. So it's actually so powerful that you need to prepare your body in order to cope. I mean, this is the thing. Sometimes it's good to go back to the scientific part of understanding things, because sometimes you think, you had to go a week without eating, your normal diet. Yeah. But it's scientifically, if you look at it, it's toxins that you're reducing into your body. So there is more like a pleasant, or you get there faster, I'm assuming, no? I'm just saying it because for me, I experience with food every day. And my whole goal of the food now is not to be a superhuman, just to reduce toxicity in the body. Absolutely.
That it keeps me healthy in a way, keeps me from my body having to work extra trying to use the food for what it's supposed to be, is giving you energy, and this, the energy just to go on with our life. So it's good to, it's good to, once you do this kind of things that gonna do the ceremony, but it gives you sort of like a homework to do, to say, okay, this is what you had to do a week before, and then you question why I had to do that and why I don't do it every day.
Yes, and I would like to add that my friend here, Gaston, has been always a source of inspiration for me regarding of healthy eating and diets, which is the most important thing on a physical and a mental level as well. It's all about that, because we are what we eat. So yeah, I agree so much.
Yeah, well, it's something that I've been always passionate. So
since the time in Sydney where I used to come at your place, these super healthy shakes.
But the thing is that, like, for me, I mean, I'm only halfway through, and it's always this experimentation. As I say, like, I don't have all the answers. Every time I say something, I might be wrong next year or next day. So it's all experimentation. For me, food is healthy only in a way that how you eat it as well. There's a lot of stuff that we think is healthy, but at the same time it's not healthy. But it's just, as I say, my point of view, because all the bodies are different, and this is why the experimentation of things is good to each person experiment. And we know really when we're eating something. Sometimes we search for the approval of other person to say, this is healthy or not, but really inside we know. Sometimes we say, maybe this is not. But if somebody says it's healthy, what happens is we are bombarded every day. Instagram, we say Instagram now because before was the TV, radio, whatever, but it's continually that part of going back to the capitalism, or the part of we all worry about survival, wanting more of everything, money, health, and everything. So we will say anything to people, believing that it's good for them, but then probably it's not. But yeah, it's something that
absolutely
it's just a game that we play now, and they grow. The older we grow, the wiser we become. And
absolutely, totally agree. I'm excited, as I said. It will be something different.
Yeah.
But I think it's the right time in life to discover something like this, to try it, because you never know. The results can be life-changing. Can be, never know. I always been very mindful, actually. I always been living always day by day, because even before the episode that happened a few years ago, I always been very attached to the simple things in life, always been very happy within small things in my life. But obviously there is always that kind of second personality that sometimes is not happy about some things, and it wants to achieve more. Let's call it ego. And this kind of experience, they opens your mind completely on a collective, on a huge way, without so completely eliminate your blockages and discover exactly who you are.
Apologies, but the camera who was recording Alessandro stopped recording midway, so we couldn't say goodbye or anything. But I hope you enjoyed, because most of the stuff was covered in the interview, just the last few minutes where we just say goodbye and everything. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, when was the first time you arrived in Australia?
My first day in Australia it was 6 February 2012.
2012.
At 8 p.m.
8 p.m. And how was Alex before? Like you say, you changed, but before you came to Australia, sort of how was your personality, or how would you define yourself?
Oh, that's a very good question, because before my time in Australia, what I used to do, I used to look at the always simple things, but at the same time, they give me joy on the moment. So, for example, going out with friends, having fun, drinking with friends. And
how old were you there?
I was 26 when I left Italy. So until that day, I just worked, mostly spent time with my friends, which I I love it. I love it in a way that I have a connection with my friends in Italy that is inexplicable, probably. Only a few people understand, like maybe from my culture, every time I go back, even once a year or once every 2 years, the connection that you have with your friends, a longer time friends, is like so powerful that every time you go back, it's like if time hasn't passed. And this is, I was living that every day in my country, but when I left actually Italy, it was a kind of then challenge within myself to be more mature and to achieve something. Like my achievement was to become permanent resident in Australia. So I started to work hard within that goal. But to be honest, if I can regret one thing, I don't normally regret anything that I did in my past, but if I can regret one thing, is that I was thinking too much about the goal in the future. Thinking too much in your everyday life about a goal, and if that actually achievement becomes the most important thing of your daily life, your life is not complete, because then you live in the future. Living in the future, and then when you achieve some things, you say, okay, what's my next goal now? But then just before I achieved that goal, which was a life-changing thing for me, I suddenly realized that it wasn't exactly that I was looking for. I was looking for actually the answers within myself that I started like asking myself a couple of years ago through self-inquiries, kind of like, what is really life? What are we here for? So I became much more spiritual and thinking about, for example, now I apply for a passport in Australia. If I think about a distant goal, I don't have that as a priority anymore. Yeah. My priority is actually now being like a human being without any kind of I try to actually be more spiritual, to be connected to the world, while before I was more connected to the materialistic.
You kind of like trying to find the answers now inside you instead of finding the answers outside of you. Yeah, being present, and it's something that I've been listening from you. I've been hearing from you is trying to be more present.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I'm definitely also looking to go back, not to achieve, is to actually go back, to the moment when you were a kid, and you always live in the moment. And I saw, for me, it was a big change. Then when I finished high school, I just started working. You start working, and then you start seeing less of your friends. You start thinking about, now I can, buy whatever. You start seeing you start seeing life through the material glasses that you can actually achieve it. Before was kind of like you still worry about it, but because you don't have any power in a way that you don't work or something, you kind of like more relaxed because also you have your house, or you have a place to stay. But once you start creating money for yourself, or in a way exchanging time for money, then you become kind of like addicted to it, and it takes you to wanting more, but not necessarily finding the happiness that you have for me, it was like finding that happiness when I was until probably 18, that you just go with your friends, enjoy the day, and then come back and you're not thinking about, in 6 months, what am I going to be doing, you're just living day to day.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting you say 26 years old when you moved from Italy, because it was exactly the same age for me that when I left Argentina. And then I hear for so many people around 25, 26, for men, for the sort of like the majority is the time that you move out. And after reading about the brain and how the brain develops, they say like at the age of 25, we fully develop our prefrontal cortex, or the lobe. So it's the one that it gives us sort of like a sense of the future in a way, or the consequences. You're doing something now, but you don't see it anymore like, it's just the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to live present, but sometimes we do stupid things in the present, and that things sometimes we don't see when we are under 25.
Absolutely.
And the male. But then after 25, you realize, oh shit, if I'd done that one, I don't know, and I got caught, bro, you ruin your life. And then you start seeing things more like the consequences of things. And I think it also brings that part of you that voice inside you that is always one more, because you are now thinking on consequences and everything. So sometimes you do something, it's like, yeah, but probably it's not enough. Maybe I could have done, Again, it's part of the process. I'm assuming that we're going to get to 40, 50, and we're going to have a different point of view. So this is why always it's good to talk to people who already been there.
Absolutely.
And we think sometimes, I don't want to hear, because it's negativity. Sometimes it is. Some people, they have a way to portray the insecurities in you, but for the most part, they've been already there, and they can see things that we don't see now. So
life is a never-ending process of teaching. Everyone can teach us, even a small kid, whatever. Like no one is right in life. No one. It's a never-ending process. When we make mistakes, when we think, like me, for example, in the past, that I was so focused on a goal, which was like my priority, which took me to the point where during those years in Australia, I just worked, and I worked so hard that I just wasn't enjoying as much as I should life. And there was something that I now, for example, I wouldn't do it. So something is I actually regretted, because even if I do it now, I will take it in a different way. A different way to actually enjoy what we are and what we're living. As I said.
Because I'm assuming it leaves you empty always, no? Yeah. When you get your goal, it's just for the ego, and the ego wants something else later on. And we think, it's a part of growth. We grow that way, but I'm pretty sure there is another way of growing, with kindness and being more present and trying to grow all together, which for me, my journey always been more like a lonely, or like a guy who goes by himself and do things. But now I understand that the more it's the importance of having people around you that you can relate, that you can help each other, and it's hard because so it's years and years of growing up by yourself. I mean, in my case, it's that just always trying to solve my own problems, and then it becomes sort of like the only tool you use.
Absolutely.
And
I agree so much. But at the same time, I just want to add something like, when someone talk about loneliness as well, I see in a way that is not that negative, because to be honest, even when I'm lonely, I'm always, let's say, I'm happy even as a lonely person, because especially when you actually can control your mind in a way that you don't think, I'm lonely. So for example, I'm working so hard because in 3 years time I need to achieve this goal. The fact that was make me suffering, it wasn't actually my loneliness during those years where I was actually working. Yeah, but I think over time I realized that the thing that I was making me suffering is achieving something and always living in the future. A lot of people, obviously you have this goal, so you live in the future, you don't live the present. Same as someone that has had a trauma, for example, in the past, or a bad experience. When you had a bad experience in the past, obviously when you live a new experience, you actually relate your bad experience with your present experience. So it's a kind of game where we need to learn to be more present rather than,
comparing.
Rather than living in the past or the future. Something that we need to learn every day. No one obviously has the answer, so we just need to work hard towards
to live. I mean, I'm
mindful.
And the experience for me is, I had the moment one time I was biking with Nova. We were going to the beach, but then I was biking and I was thinking something else.
Yes.
You know, it was kind of like the automatic mind going somewhere.
Yes.
My mind, or the part that it takes you somewhere, like, you know, okay, I know the road, I can go in automatic. The other part,
Yes.
the logical part, was thinking about something else.
Yes.
And I was realizing, wow, it's as simple as it sounds. As simple as it sounds, it has an effect on you because you wasting energy. Like, in a way, your mind is working extra for nothing.
Absolutely.
And it's energy. Like, I mean, the brain is one of the most hungry organs in the body. And so instead of being there biking, I just been in the moment.
Absolutely.
And then
you say something so powerful, because the fact that you are actually aware of this moment makes you aware automatically, because you were aware. Like, let's say most of the people, they go with a bicycle with their baby, they don't realize that they are actually thinking about something else while are with their daughter. But in your case, for example, the fact that you are actually aware that you were actually not there makes you aware, and is so powerful already. It's a huge step forward already for you. Like, how I see things is like when we do everyday activities, and Eckhart Tolle taught me that so well. He taught me to live in the moment, and some people believe it's a very simplistic way of seeing things, but it's not, because at the end of the day, the present moment is all we ever have, even in the future. Tomorrow we're gonna have so many moments, but those moments, they're gonna be always present.
yeah.
So, and if you actually think about it, it's so powerful, because then you think, okay, but if my life is actually now, why would I think so much about
The future.
future? So it's good to actually separate then. To separate, you have your moment during your day where you actually plan things. It's so important. It's actually very important in the society where we live in. For example, even myself, I want to start a business, but I just want to cut a bit of time of my day.
To be present, to plan for the future.
Exactly.
And no planning in the future while you're doing something else. Kind of like being present with your planning.
Absolutely. And it's so important to do that in a way that you actually only, like, you have only a part of your day planning, and doing the rest of your day you should be thinking about your present moment, which is amazing, because it makes you happy only to the idea that you're playing with Nova, for example, and if you're mindful of doing that, makes you so happy, because it's the most beautiful thing in life if you think about it. But then if you're playing with your baby and then you think, oh, tomorrow I need to make a video for this client, and you do automatically something with your daughter and you don't enjoy what you're doing.
And the thing for me now, I see more like living in the present, because sometimes it's hard to explain to live in the present, which I still don't understand. But for practically what I can say is, sometimes what happens is we're trying to keep ourselves, our senses busy all the time, no? Because we don't want to have a period of stillness or silence, because it is when you see yourself and you're scared of yourself. So sometimes I've noticed, sometimes I'm with Nova downstairs playing, and then all of a sudden I feel like maybe I should put the TV on, and then you want music in the background, and then you have the phone next to you, and it's all that's kind of like the stuff that is distractions that are keeping you either in the future, in the past, or the TV, probably the music is running in the background.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it just brings you memories, and then you stop thinking about playing with your kid. You start thinking about something that song reminds you, and this is kind of like the harder things to do, is to do one thing at a time. Being like, if you're gonna play with your kid, you play with your kid. If you're gonna watch TV, you watch your kid. You watch TV and so on, no? And it is hard because we've been conditioned not to do 3 or 4 things at a time. We cooking, and then we listening to something, which I do still,
like podcasts.
And then you just doing multiple things. Yeah, and I'm sometimes I do it. Sometimes I just go off everything, and then I cook, and then just pay attention to the ingredients and stuff, and it's so much different. Your food even tastes different. You feel a connection to your food, which is sometimes when you just cooking for the sake of, okay, I need to cook just to put something in my belly, and it's that only, no?
Yes.
And this is where we start sacrificing
so wise.
health and everything, no? It's yeah. So
Absolutely, you say something so wise now. Cooking and enjoying what you're doing rather than waiting for the food to be ready,
yeah,
and actually living in the future thinking, okay, now I'm cooking for the, and like what we're thinking in the moment, you're already projected in the future, say thinking, okay, so the dish that I'm gonna make is gonna be so tasty, rather than thinking I'm really enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, and by the time you're eating, it's just it's kind of like a reward only, but it's kind of like you go up the mountain, it's cooking, and then when you get to the top, you eat your meal, but then you start again with something else. We kind of like want to get to the top of the mountain basically just by helicopter, and then, and this is why the thing of slow living or living a more meaningful life is why we busy doing all the stuff that we're doing. I mean, why are we working so hard for what? Because we think we want, have the nice car, the nice food, but then we have it and then we don't enjoy it because we kind of like working hard again for achieving something else, and then, years goes so quickly. I'm realizing now Nova's nearly 2 years old, and I'm so glad that I spend pretty much, if not every day with her, like except the 2 days she goes to daycare. And I can't imagine otherwise, like having a kid, just me disappearing to a job. Sometimes, I wouldn't probably like to go and work and then come back home and then, get again in that route. So
kind of how do you call it? Rat race.
Yeah. But it's it's a conscious decision or unconscious decision that we make of, I want to escape. Sometimes the work or our jobs are escape from family, And one of the things that I realized, I always like, the male, we always been like, I'm the one working hard. So when I go home, the wife is always doing the cooking, they're looking after the kids and everything. That's the easy job. And it's completely the opposite. Going to work is probably the easiest thing you can do if you have kids, because you only go in an automatic mode. You know how to do your job. You might have your stress at work, but you live in the present at home, and then you just, become the thing that escapes to work, come back, and then blame your wife or whoever for thinking that their life is easier, which when it's not. I'm experiencing now like how, and I'm doing only probably 50% of the work with Nova, and it is hard work and it teaches you so much.
Absolutely.
But it's always good to, I think it just, but once you get to the awareness of okay, this is all the stuff that I do every day is how important it is, then things you start seeing more clearly. I mean, far away, as I say, from the perfect life that I want, but I stopped fighting it. I'm just more like, okay, I'm happy for what I have here, and then I want more things, but I'm not just going crazy in losing the other part.
Very good, man. Very good. You touched another super important point for me as well, because like I was like you, and I'm still like sometimes thinking, like I had a beautiful job in Sydney, because now I moved in the Sunshine Coast. I had a job that gave me like so much like in terms of economics and stability and everything, but at the same time I was like, okay, I just want to kind of step out from my comfort zone to discover amazing, reality. And another thing that I want to share is a lot of people also believe that the collectiveness where we're living is not important. It's actually very important, because even Eckhart Tolle on his books always mention the collective mind. The collective mind is actually very important, because if you live, for example, in a city like Sydney, which is a city basically based mostly on business and mostly on capitalism. if you think about it. Your thinking is actually will mold according to that. It's actually is the same where you actually, for example, if you have a family that supports you, for example, it gives you love, is the same, because the environment where you're living is actually so important, to the point that your mind, if it doesn't actually belong to the reality, wants to actually step out and say, okay, I want to live in a reality more aligned to my actually
values. Yeah.
And in Sydney, as I said, Sydney is a beautiful city, huge, and I love it. It's like my second home. One of the fact I actually left Sydney, another point that makes me so confident in living Sydney is that Sydney is my home. Because if things go wrong, I know that I have Sydney, which is my home there, and I will never change for anything else. So that made me confident to live it and thinking, oh, let's try to live in a reality more aligned to my pace, my nature, and see where it takes me. There will be so many challenges, I know that, but I'm ready, and I'm not scared because I'm living in the moment.
It's very important what you say, also what you've done. You step away from a job. It was good for you. Like, yes. I mean, you were happy there. It was good money and everything. But at the same time, you say, okay, there is something else that I need to pursue, and it didn't have those ingredients.
Yes.
And then you say, okay, going to the Sunshine Coast, I don't know what I'm going to find there. But what it does is you already have, you set your bar here, and so you always rise to there and above, no? So you're back here, and then it takes a period of adaptation, but once you adapt to it, it's like anything, no? Your mind gets you more of what you already had. The thing that most of us always are scared of stepping away from things, because we think, okay, if I live this, I'm gonna lose everything and I'm gonna start from zero, and then I'm gonna go backwards. No, it's never like that.
Never,
the only thing is, like, the price is always for the ones who take the risk and move forward, especially if you're in a situation that you want to change and you don't do the change, is when you suffer the most, because you want to make a change but you're not taking the steps. So living in the present is good, but if you just live in the present doing things that it doesn't add to your actually dream or your soul, you just fooling yourself. I think Absolutely. It's important to be living in the present, but having an idea of what your ideal life will be.
Absolutely.
Not based on material things, or if it does, it can be part of it, but then every day becomes more like purposeful. Like I'm guessing for us it was similar. Like we came on holidays to the Sunshine Coast, and then we say we want to move there, and then say, well,
get a connection or something.
Yeah, and then you say, well, the issue or the what's stopping people moving here is like, yeah, but what are you gonna do there for work? And then you don't see in the solution, you see in the problem. So we say, okay, in a year we move in there. And well, we both had jobs. Yes. We probably had the idea of what we can do something, working for ourselves, but we didn't have that. We just say, okay, we move in and we save. No, we move here. And then in between of our decision to move to the Sunshine Coast, we have Nova, which it wasn't. So instead of a year, it was 1.5 years. But we moved here, and we moved when Nova was a baby. And, I'm super happy that I did.
Absolutely.
Because...
Absolutely. You guys are the American, let's say, Australian dream.
Yeah, well, call it a dream, yeah. But it's something that... And I know that, as I say in this... it doesn't have anything to do with the Sunshine Coast. Or it's like every time you move and you're happy where you are, I only see possibilities. And Absolutely. So now for me this is amazing, and probably in 5 years I move somewhere else and I will look at Sunshine Coast and say, oh, I remember I used to live there and now I'm here, but I'm happy here now. Absolutely. So I don't know, it's just the perception of a perception.
The perception is everything. Absolutely. You guys are amazing what you're doing. Like I would love to have that's the thing of society as well. Sometimes society, because we live in a society that actually you're tied on having a security, a job, for example, even famous actors like Jim Carrey now, like they are very close to spirituality now. And when famous actor, very famous and rich and spiritually awake, they talk to people and they say, look, I have everything in life, but it's not the answer. The answer is not having everything in life. We live in a society that unfortunately, like, obviously makes you tired of having materialistic goals, but in the inside, the work is in the inside always. Like, we shouldn't never achieve something materialistic. And even when I hear from people like him or any other like famous
people like who done the stuff that we want to do. Sometimes we pursue things, even for me, like doing videos and stuff. I love the idea of, doing videos, YouTube and everything, but then I pay attention to the people who already done it, and they might say one thing in 1 year when everything's going well, and no, I can do it without sleeping. I don't sleep 3 hours, 4 hours, and you're like, oh well, maybe I should do that. Probably it's just a matter of pushing it, and then a year later they're like, oh man, this really put a toll on my family, and I was only thinking about what I wanted for this, and then now I'm changed. I'm living more in the present moment, trying not to. Absolutely. And then you start thinking, okay, maybe the formula is not to go like the American way of like, let's kill myself achieving the dream, and then